Welcome to Public and Private International Law, Chapter 10, Part 1. In this lecture, we will be dealing with the legal system of the second most populous country of the world, the Republic of India. In that context, we will also have an opportunity to dive into classical Indian legal thinking and classical Indian social philosophy, and we will be addressing current political and legal issues as well. Namaste. This brings us into the third main part of our semester program, namely comparative law. So far, we dealt with public international law, which primarily regulates the relations between states, and with private international law or conflict of laws, which regulates private law issues in cross-border situations. And we also had a look at international private law, namely international sales law that offers substantive private law rules at an international level for cross-border sales transactions. Comparative law is a different field of knowledge. It is about analyzing and comparing different legal systems or legal traditions. Comparative law looks at national legal systems in an international perspective. What is international here is the perspective, whereas public international law is about international rules and private international law deals with cross-border issues. In comparative law, our viewpoint is international. And we will be focusing on cross-cultural comparative law. We will be exploring legal traditions from very different civilizations, very different cultural contexts. Cross-cultural comparative law is a challenge. Do we even have a chance to really understand entirely different ways of thinking about law? With this in mind, I think it is important to start by reflecting on how law and culture relate to each other. Let me try to do that by pulling out my blackboard. At first glance, law and culture seem to be very much opposites that are quite incompatible, a sort of a contradiction in terms. If you talk to artists or people from the creative industry, you will most likely not feel much enthusiasm for law, regulations, legal reasoning, or legal arguments. But this is a superficial perception. If we dig a little deeper, a completely different picture emerges. In reality, law is a central part of culture. How a given society organizes social life through legal rules says a lot about the prevailing mentality and culture in that particular society. Law belongs to culture. It's not something else. It is culture. But this also means that we cannot deal with law in isolation from its cultural context. If we are to gain a real understanding of a specific legal tradition, we need to place it in its cultural context. Most importantly, we need to consider its historical roots, its political background, and the worldview and the view of human beings it is based on. And those last 2 points are of particular importance. The perception of the world and of human beings that underlies a legal tradition is the basis for understanding its characteristics. If we just take our own worldview as our starting point, we have no chance to gain any deeper understanding of other ways of thinking about law. Rather, this would be a recipe for systematic misinterpretations and misunderstandings. If we are unable to leave our own perception of the world and our own perception of human beings behind for a moment, because we take it for granted that our own worldview is the only valid one, then other ways of thinking remain closed to us. We need to open up. What we should try is to understand from within rather than looking down from above. The worldview and the view of human beings are about cosmology and anthropology. And looking at cosmological and anthropological foundations is fundamental for understanding a legal tradition. I think those two terms call for some explanation. Cosmological comes from the ancient Greek word kosmos, meaning order, world, universe. And you can find the element cosmo also in other words such as cosmopolitan, cosmonaut, and also, of course, cosmetics. Because cosmetics is about bringing order into your face. Anthropological is rooted in the ancient Greek word anthropos, meaning man, human being. And in both adjectives, you have also the element logical that goes back to the ancient Greek word logos, meaning word, understanding, knowledge, science. So cosmology means understanding of world order. Anthropology means understanding of human beings and their destiny. And here you have the overall picture of the main elements that have to be taken into account when analyzing a specific legal tradition. This is the program we will be going through. In addition, we will try to find answers to a number of questions I would like to submit to you. First question, Indians sometimes claim to have the longest experience in managing diversity. Is there some truth in that claim? Second question, how could castes form the backbone of the social order in India for centuries and millennia without leading to revolutions? Third question, looking at the political and legal system of today's Republic of India, what are the current issues? And finally, what are the challenges of doing business in India with regard to legal aspects? Next, we are going into the historical roots and the political background of the legal system of the Republic of India. This will be the topic of the next part.